Most people assume that just because we buy homes cash as is, that we're just going to buy anything that there is available. Just honestly isn't true. Maybe it is for some individuals, but it's not true for us. If you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is John Cummings. I'm with Dad Life Property Solutions. My wife, my kids, and I, we go all across the Lehigh Valley and we buy homes, we fix and flip them, we renovate them, we rent them. But mostly we're here to help you, the homeowner, to provide you with some information so that you can have a good understanding of the best path forward to sell your property. After all, it is a family decision. Truly believe that, and we hope that our family could help yours to make that decision. And today I wanted to go over some misconception that I hear quite often, is that since we're buying homes as is, cash, no contingencies, we'll just buy whatever, we'll buy anything, we're desperate, which isn't necessarily true. And today I want to highlight 3 examples of properties we walked away from because we can't just do whatever we want. One that we went through recently over in Fountain Hill is an example. The numbers just didn't pencil in. They just didn't work. This was a multi-unit in Fountain Hill that's not in a good location. Sellers seem to take care of it decent. Honestly, when people are selling multi-units, right, even especially small ones, small landlords, mom and pop shops, they don't necessarily take into consideration all of the costs that are associated with running those small multi-family homes, or especially during the turnover phase when it goes to a new owner. And this individual, they had, I think, under 10 units, almost like an accidental landlord. They just had these over time. I think they inherited one and they were just tired of dealing with it. They don't live nearby. They just couldn't deal with the property anymore. They didn't want to anyway, but they got it for an extremely low price because they've owned it for, I think it was over 12, 15 years. They just lost touch, honestly, to how much it actually costs to turn over a unit. Their rents were extremely low. I'm going to come in, I have to raise the rents because this individual wanted a certain price, which would have made sense, right? And I tried to explain to them, would make sense. Everything was brand new, it was fully renovated, and the rents were in reasonable shape. If you're renting for someone for $600 a month that's been there for 20, 30 years, that's all good, but I have to cover my costs, which ultimately is the mortgage. So if I can't cover the mortgage, that's no good for anybody, right? If I buy a property and I can't cover the mortgage, guess what? It's getting foreclosed upon. And that's not good for anybody. It's not good for the tenants. It's not good for me. It's not a good look for anybody. So the numbers, they have to work. Otherwise, we have to pass. There's somebody out there just giving you information that they could buy your home for a retail price, something that you would pay going through an agent. They're likely not going to close on that property. It's probably someone that's putting you under contract, shopping it around. It's not going to work and they're not going to close. So you want to pay attention to that as well. You don't just want a yes man. Someone should push back a little bit. You shouldn't get everything you want because that's just not a good negotiation. And I shouldn't get everything I want. There should be some middle ground. So that's one example. 2 is there was too much risk involved. One of the biggest things that we work with is septic. And I try to explain this to homeowners all the time, is septic is a big unknown. Unless you allow us to do a septic inspection, which most people don't want to do, especially if we're coming in cash as is, immediately, if there's a septic involved, $30,000 is coming off of the offer price from the bat, because I've had enough experience with septic to know that they go bad and there's $30,000 at least to fix that septic. A homeowner may say, well, I haven't had any problems with my septic. It doesn't really matter. The testing involved with this, especially when you turn over a property, the township, the cities, they get involved with these things because they don't want problems either. The neighbors don't want problems. And if your septic ends up failing and you have to put a mound in there, or you might not even be able to get the ground to perk for a mound, it can be very difficult to get that permitted and zoned properly. So when the risk is too high, especially with septics, we oftentimes will pass because for us, or we're going to give you such a low offer that doesn't really make sense for you. And we'll tell you that we're adjusting for risk here. And you're like, wow, this is just way off. Then we're probably not going to be the buyer for you. So that risk does play a role. And the last situation is when it makes sense to sell on market. And prime example I had on this is in Hellertown. There was a beautiful home. And I love Hellertown, great area, great neighborhood. The individual had no rush to sell. The home was in good shape. I think the individual's wife had passed away about a year ago. It was very emotional, right? He kind of just wanted to let the property go. But I asked him, what are you doing after you move? He said, I'm going to rent. I'm going to go rent. He currently had no mortgage on the property. I tried to explain to him, right now you're on a fixed income. You're going to leave your property, which you have no mortgage on, you're not paying anything on, to go rent. And he wants to stay in Hellertown. Rents around, or what he wanted was $1,500 to $2,000 a month. Now you're going to have to come out of pocket that every month, when right now you're living essentially for free except for the taxes and the upkeep. And after I run through his fixed income and his numbers and all that, it didn't make sense for him to even sell. And I've been told many times that it's by brokers, by other investors. That is not my place to tell people whether or not they should sell. I should just explain to them why they should should sell to me. And I don't necessarily agree with that. If I'm going to come in and I'm going to give you some advice on potentially the biggest sell of your life, I'm not going to just take that lightly. I want to go over all of the information with you. And if it does not make sense for you to sell to me, or even if we go through it and you still want to sell, I'm going to advise that you sell it for your highest and best value. I will explain to you what you need to do in order to sell for your highest value. And that's going to be on market. It's going to be fixing a couple of things on your own. But if I think it's a reasonable job and that advise you to do it, I'm going to say that, right? I'm not just going to try and trick you into selling to me. It doesn't make any sense. It's a disservice to you as a homeowner. I've probably talked more sellers out of selling to me than I'd like to admit, just because we go through their situation. It just doesn't make sense. We're happy to go through that with you. I hope this video is helpful to you. If you have questions about how we price homes, check out our other videos. If you want to go through any of our walkthroughs or any of our other videos, there's lots of information on there. Best thing to do is to reach out if you have questions. All my information is in the description below, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video.